So there is something special about what the Bible would have the individual conversation go through. There's something special about what the Bible would have the individual conversation go through in the sense of positivity. Thinking back or looking back at the past weeks, or what I've referenced in these verses, within the scriptures in these past weeks, the overall gist of them is that the Bible wants to encourage personal growth and development. Personal growth and development is really what the Bible is wanting to coach us on and encourage us in. Reason being is because we have wrong inside of us. Each and every single one of us are created fractured, and our Creator has created us fractured for a specific reason. Not that we are not loved, not that we are not to love, but from our fractures come fusion. From our fractures come fusion. So it is through our fracture that we are to fuse together. It is from being fractured that we are to, and we, both personally and devotionally, inwardly, fuse together to form a whole and complete human being. And the Bible putting us to the test, the Bible putting us to the test to examine our belief and its core structure. The Bible putting us to the test to test it and to test the mind, inspiring it. All of this is all of this is for our personal human growth and development because not even the Bible is satisfied with us taking it to be all in all. Basic information before leaving Earth is, I think that's an acronym or something, is what we say the Bible stands for. BIBLE, basic instruction, right? Basic instruction before leaving Earth. And so we take the Bible to be word. Now, we really never know what is that word, but whatever traditional holiness is ascribed to the Bible, well, that's just what we live by. If the Bible had to be a talking, breathing person, the Bible would tell you that that's not how I want you to observe me. And even Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that main character, as created as that character is from those authors, there are still pieces of truth from the original man within that character that is created. And the individual character himself, traveling to the book of John, I know him and keep his saying. Whoever should keep my saying should not taste death. And in these past weeks, we have been talking about this concept of life and this concept of death. How life, keeping it strictly to the Bible's mind, is not literal natural life. How death, keeping it strictly to the Bible's mind, is not literal natural death. This is all life and death for the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings, for the devotional conversations character. It is a specific saying that the conversation is to uphold so that it does not embrace the kind of death that is referenced. And going back to last week, we can either keep our life to die or lose our life to have it. Looking at this meaning of life, looking at this concept of regeneration or resurrection, and in the sense of proving the experience and proving the mind governing that experience. The Bible is trying to lace its student, lace its reader, lace its thoughtful observer with an attitude and with a level of resilience for the devotional conversations, thoughts, feelings, actions, and behaviors. Because everything trickles down to our human being. Our human being, even if we may not realize it, relies so much on our spirituality, on our personal philosophy, on our general outlook on life, whether visible and invisible, biological, abnormal, biology. Um, Everything funnels away from our human being and is inspired by the being within us that we cannot see. Bible understands this. And in order for the human being to be at its best, in order for the human being to have its highest opportunity or its greatest opportunity to reach the potential that it can, and the individual human being of the individual person, well, the conversations, thoughts, and feelings, the invisible body motivating the physical, the invisible eyes motivating the physical eyes. Um, there needs to be a growth and a development from that body because it is from this body that we do all things. Whether we realize them consciously or unconsciously, we do all things through this invisible body. Bible knows this. That's why the instructions to prove are given from, as we saw in the book of Isaiah, and then as we saw in the book of Malachi. But those instructions to prove, they lead to an individual with their conversation relinquished. So the level of humility that is needed in order to take your conversation, in order for me to take my conversation, in order for us to take our conversation to the place where the Bible would have it, well, there has to be a period of letting go. And in letting go, there has to be a period of acceptance. The Bible is all about letting go of the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings, and being able to accept the impression from the scriptures and from the words that are within the Bible, a conversation, a devotional conversation that is acceptable and that is being beyond acceptable, that is able to be relied upon. And so, going back to last week, you cannot be my disciple if you do not put away and abandon and kill mother, father, sister, brother, and even your own self. Harsh words, not literal words, but these are words pointing to a correction and a rearranging of the members that are within the soul temple. Why? But why though? And the interesting part is that this is necessary because we have a conversation, just as Paul says to the Ephesians, that we have to put off. And we have a state of mind or a mindset that we have to put on. And as I was thinking about this and thinking about this concept of how the Bible talks about putting on, putting off the conversation, putting off the conversation, and putting on the conversation, I began to think about the relationship between Elijah and Elisha. Now, I find it interesting in this relationship because what made Elisha special and what made Elijah special was not that they were some divine figure. They didn't have God in them. The authors that wrote of these characters, they didn't have the same sort of mindset as the authors that wrote the character of Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Um, the authors of the Bible did not maintain a Greek mythological lore when it came to interpreting heroic figures that they had been familiar with or that is a part of their culture. Instead of God resting within, in a literal sense, as the Greek religion, literature, mythology, philosophy would have us believe, and as also even not just Greek, but the Sumerian, the Babylonian, the Egyptian, also with the same concept, it's really not how the minds that put the Bible together operated when it came to acknowledging someone special. Samson, all of these characters, they're special not in the sense of being a deity, not in the sense of being God men, not in the sense of being God in the flesh, but they were special because they had an attribute with them. They had an attribute to them. And thinking about this relationship of the putting off of the conversation for the putting on of a new conversation, the relationship between Elijah and Elisha, because once Elijah was told to anoint this king and that, and then this, and then him, and the him being Elisha, we're told that Elijah took his mantle and cast it onto Elisha. The casting of the mantle. And when you think mantle, think think robe, think robe, along those lines. When Elisha saw after Elijah had been taken that his mantle remained, Elisha picked up that mantle, did a special work with that mantle over some waters, and Elijah's crew saw what Elisha had done with that mantle. And as soon as they saw Elisha doing whatever he did with those waters through that mantle, they said, "The spirit of Elijah is with Elisha. Let us go to him." So I'm bringing up that illustration to show that, harping back to last week, if we are going to be a disciple of the actual man here, if we are going to take these words to be true, if we're going to live by them, we have to understand the context, and the context from the Bible's perspective. That mantle doesn't represent anything but a covering. Represents nothing but a covering. A covering filled with something special. And when once worn, a transference of what is within that mantle is then transferred to the individual wearing it. When it comes to that saying, "You cannot be my disciple unless you abandon mother, father, sister, brother, and also your own life," well, it doesn't just end there, because once we do, we're going to end up getting a replacement conversation. We are told to abandon our conversation repeatedly in the scriptures. And this abandonment leaves us naked. It leaves us without comfort. It leaves us without clothing. It leaves us without the ability to maintain ourselves philosophically or devotionally, because we have abandoned everything. It is only in this moment of being naked, and not naked literally, being naked devotionally or philosophically, that the living God has the opportunity to clothe us. And that once we are naked, and that once we do accept being naked, we may be able to look around and see that there is actually a mantle on the ground in front of us, or next to us, or behind us. Every situation is different, every experience is different, but there is a mantle there that we need to see. And once we do see that mantle, we are supposed to pick it up and to clothe ourselves. Again, not literal. The ourselves isn't literal. This is the self of the conversation. This is the body of our belief. The body of our belief is to take hold of that mantle that we will see once we accept, humbly, letting go of the life that we have. And this is all philosophical. And it's all philosophical, pointing to the type of resurrection that the mind within the Bible would have us experience. This is resurrection of the mind. Create in me a clean heart, and renew a right spirit within me. Thou desirest truth in the inward part, and in the hidden part Thou shalt make me to know wisdom. The Bible is all about resurrection and regeneration of the mind, of the devotional character. What is supposed to be within the mind of the devotional character is a specific experience for a specific wisdom to specifically exercise for a continual reviving of the conversation's thoughts and feelings. Where we are naturally, as our conversation is generated and created from within the religious world and from whatever denomination we choose, our conversation does not grow. Our understanding does not exist because we are inheriting understanding, we are inheriting growth, and we're remaining comfortable in that. So while we are saying the Bible is basic instruction before leaving earth, we have no idea what that instruction is. While we are saying this is it, we have no idea what it is outside of the denominated or traditional function of our religious habit. So Bible's not content with that. Bible understands that every single conversation is born ignorant of what a true revelation of the mind within the scriptures actually is. And of course, as no child remains in the womb of their mother forever, but birth actually happens, so our conversation is not intended to remain within the denominated structure that we are in. We have to give birth to ourselves. We cannot continue to hide ourselves in the denominated structure of theory and of principle connected to whatever theology we assume fits our ideal perception of what the Bible stands for. And the Bible doesn't accept that. The Bible does not accept that one bit. The Bible wants to challenge our belief, to challenge our structure. I will lead them in paths that they do not know. I will make crooked things straight. Then will they turn from their gods and no longer worship strange gods. Go to Hosea. We will no longer say that Ashur is our God and utter strange things from our lips. The experience is not an experience primarily or firstly where one is recognizing human frailty and the offense attached to it, because that's not how things work. Try to tell somebody, right? Try to tell somebody that what they're doing is wrong. Tell anybody what they're doing is wrong, and they'll look at you like you are the dumbest person on the earth. Try to convict somebody that what they're doing is unlawful to themselves and to the people around them. The number one thing that you're going to get is resistance. You're going to get resistance because that person does not understand what is wrong, nor do they understand what is right. Same thing with us. The Bible cannot tell us flat out what is right and what is wrong, because we are going to look at the Bible falsely. There are straight up principles in the scriptures that are just blatant, and yet Christian theory violates them consistently along with their followers and even non-followers of the Christian theory. Bible can't say that this is right or wrong blatantly, because that's not how that works. The way the Bible works is first attacking the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings. When you can get into the invisible mind within the body, when you can get into the mind of the devotional conversation, well, then it is the individual conversation that does the correcting on behalf of the mind within the scriptures. That's what makes it more effective. That's what makes it more personal. That's what makes it right. The experience is correcting, as it says, that thine own wickedness shall correct thee. Correction comes from the realization of error, yes. But the realization of error doesn't come from an individual telling you that you are erroneous. That will only harden the heart. Realization of error is personal, and realization of error works not within the mind of the flesh, but within the mind of the devotional conversation's body. And so the Bible is embracing a process of where it wants to get to the human being, of course, but it cannot get to the human being because the human being is naturally stout, is naturally untrustworthy, is naturally thoughtless, is what the human being is. But there is another aspect to our existence that is not strictly human. There is an invisible aspect to our existence that is within us. It is this aspect of existence that the mind within the Bible wants to get to. And the mind within the Bible getting to this, educating and informing what is within us, and what is primarily or firstly within the devotional conversation's conscience, awakening that, giving that the level of consciousness that it needs, well, then it can then move to instructing our human being, and that's how that correction works. When our conversation is able to instruct our human being, it's powerful. It's really powerful because you're coming into a sense of yourself by a full and true sense of your developing self. And we have to share this body with what is within it. So we have to communicate with the members that are within us in order to understand where our minds need to be and where we need to spend our energy. We have to communicate with the members that are within us. Bible does this by attacking the devotional conversations, thoughts, and feelings. Getting those members engaged and prepared to deal with the members that are within our human body. And so there is a call. There is a call to prove what is within the scriptures. There is a call to prove what is our belief personally so that we can understand what we are wearing, and speaking figuratively, what we are wearing doesn't match up to the uniform or to the outfit or to the structure that the Bible is calling for concerning our human and devotional growth and development. We're supposed to go through this experience so that we can understand we need to be without the clothing that we have accepted denominationally. We need to be without the clothing of our theories. We need to be without the clothing of our opinions. We need to be without us. We need to be naked. And you can, take this illustration back to the garden, to where they were naked and they were not ashamed. And there's a point to that structure, because that nakedness, not literal nakedness, this is nakedness of mind. They were naked and not ashamed. We too are supposed to get to that point where even though we are clothed by denomination and we are clothed by theory, even though we are clothed by attitude and by disposition, well, we have to do the reverse. The pair in Eden were created naked. We are created clothed. Well, we have to stop being clothed, take our clothes off, and willingly be naked, so that just as Elisha picked up that mantle, and we too are able to see through that experience the mantle that we need to pick up, the garment that we need to clothe our body of belief with. And again, that garment is not a literal garment. The body of our belief is to be clothed with an experience and a specific wisdom or understanding from that experience. Clothing our experience or conversation with that, when we will be able to say, the Spirit, and others will be able to say of us, the Spirit of the living God's chief apostle, though gone, is fallen upon us. And that's pretty much what that's about, because harping again back to last week, those final words, into thy hands I commit my spirit, To be a disciple of that man means to be a disciple of the spirit of that man. To be a disciple, said even more clearly, to be a disciple of the spirit of that man's devotional conversation and its character. And so when it comes to that mantle, as seen in the story of Elijah and Elisha, this is all figuratively pointing to the work that we today have to do. That we have to bear the mantle and put on and shod the mantle of the individual that laid the foundation for this experience. That first, in its most efficient sense, lived it, talked about it, and then died for it, to fulfill exactly what it was said of Abel, his blood doth speak from the ground. The voice of his blood doth speak from the ground. So it is that aspect of, and what that means is the conversation of the individual's devotional character, of that individual's devotional character, is the mantle that we are supposed to wear. So even though we have our body of belief, whatever covering we have for our body of belief to keep it safe and to keep it protected, to keep it warm, we need to let that go. Because there is a garment that we need to put on, a garment not literal, a garment of understanding that we need to put on and that we need to live by in order for that experience, our personal devotional experience, to be more full. And so thinking about that idea from last week, and I began to just think about and wanting to emphasize and to discuss the relationship between Elijah, Elisha, and that mediating mantle. It's the same thing for us. And same call. Put off your former conversation, the old man, or the old mind, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new man, or the new mind. Same instruction that Paul is giving is articulated in the same colorful scenes between Elijah and Elisha. So I'll end it for now, but with this exiting thought of, as we're going through this week and as we're going through whatever we're going through, to be clothed with whatever devotional understanding we have come across when privately studying the scriptures, clothing ourselves, clothing our mind with whatever principle or with whatever outlook that we are taking away from our private studies with the scriptures, to wear that, to grow fond of it, and to live in it, to manifest and dig into and digest the spirit of whatever we have come across, to become it. And take care for now.